So the question is, there's two questions. Are gold watches technically better than their steel variants? And the second question is, are gold watches coming back? Welcome back to Bark and Jack. I'm Adrian, and today I'm back in my studio talking about Rolex and drinking coffee. This feels like life is getting back to normal. I've been living out of a hotel for the past 3 weeks because this place has just been unlivable. It's been an absolute pain in the ass, but at least it feels like, this looks like it's back to normal. But anyway, I had two thoughts around these two questions of, are the gold versions of watches technically better than the steel versions? And also, are gold watches coming back? The first one is relatively easy to figure out. I've got 3 versions of the same watch, thanks to the guys over at Chronex. The second question around, are gold watches coming back? That takes a little bit more unpacking and a bit of a discussion, frankly, around how I see watches, how I'm fed watches, and then how you see watches as well. It's kind of tricky. So the 3 watches that I have the Submariner, or what's commonly known as the no-date Submariner, the OG of the Submariner range. I have the two-tone Submariner date, and then I have the all-gold Submariner date. I appreciate that a lot of people who go for the two-tone and the all-gold go for the blue dial, blue bezel, the bluesy. It's cool, it works, but for me, I just feel like black and gold is just naughty. There's something sexy, there's something dirty about that setup, which for me just adds to the character of these watches. All the specs of these watches are exactly the same, apart from 3 fairly obvious areas. One has a date, one doesn't have a date. The steel version has a fully brushed bracelet, whereas the gold and two-tone, they have polished center links. And then, of course, we have the price. The retail price on the steel is $6,450, two-tone is $11,450, and the all gold is $29,650. Now, all of these watches are pretty hard to get at retail price. The steel is significantly more tricky to get than the gold. And that's for 2 big reasons. One, if you're gonna go gold, it's quite a big statement. Buying a Rolex is tricky, as it not the buying process, but the idea, the psychology of buying a Rolex. A lot of people see that as a statement. And if you go gold, you're kind of going further down that road of statement piece. And not everyone wants to make that statement. So the steel version is a bit more chilled out. The second reason is a very obvious one. A lot more people can afford a £6,000 steel watch compared to the amount of people who can afford a £30,000 all gold watch. So the market and the demand is much greater for the steel compared to the gold, and this is reflected in the pre-owned market value of these watches. On Chronex, you can get the steel Submariner for £12,000. That is pretty much 100% more than the retail price. Compare that to the all gold version, which is a mere 15–20% more than the retail price. That price increase and difference is purely driven by supply and demand for each of those watches. Everyone wants the stainless steel, and that kind of makes the gold a bit more cool. Whilst I've already mentioned Chronex, I don't want to break up the flow of the rest of the video because there's a couple of rants, there's a couple of thoughts going on. I don't want to break that up. So let's mention Chronex, the sponsor of this video, right now. Chronex are a massive online retailer. These guys are legit, and I'm very happy to work with Chronex because they are so above board. Every single watch that they sell has at least a 2-year warranty with it. Every single watch that they sell has gone through their own in-house watchmakers, and so they can verify that everything that they sell is legit. On top of that, they have a massive offering of watches. It's not just Rolex, it's not just the hype stuff. They have everything from Zinn, Omega, Lange, JLC, Patek, AP. And if you spend over £5,000, use discount code BARK and Jack when you check out, and you'll get a special little discount. There'll be a link in the description down below, and that first little comment, jump over to Chronex when the video is finished. Jump over to Chronex and have a little look at what they have. My initial thought for this video was, in the car world, you have the base model. And then you have different trims, different specs. And as you go up those trims, up those spec levels, you have then access to better technology. It might be better internal technology, it might be a better engine, might be better spec'd wheels, larger wheels. And my question to myself was, is the same for watches? When you buy a higher level, or what is perceived to be a higher level watch, do you get more watch? Is the finishing better? Now, in the world of Rolex, Rolexes are very, I know there's a lot of hate for Rolex, but they are very, very well-built machines. The movements are really very, very high-performing movements. So I was wondering, is the finishing better? Is the build quality any better on the gold versions compared to the steel versions? To conclude the thought around, are the gold versions higher than the steel versions? No, they're the same product. One is just significantly more expensive because it's gold. If you'd asked me last year, or even a couple of months ago, if I liked two-tone watches, two-tone sports watches, the answer would be absolutely not. They just reek of dirty, dodgy banker or a dirty, dodgy used car dealer from the 80s or 90s. It just looks dated in my eyes. The idea of a sports watch being made from a soft, precious metal just makes no logical sense to me. It immediately takes it from what it's been designed to do to then be a fashion piece or a statement piece. It's no longer there to serve a purpose. The Rolex Explorer is, without question, my favorite watch line out of all watches. And Rolex had dirtied it by putting this pretentious, obnoxious, vulgar metal on it. But that just completely changed when I tried it on for the second time. I started to like it when I got hands on with it the first time, but then it started to sink in. I no longer want the 36mm Explorer in steel. I now want the 36mm Explorer in two-tone. After shooting the content for this video, the topic of this video then changed. My viewpoint of two-tone completely changed. There's nothing against steel sports watches, but there's just something more exciting, something more naughty about two-tone. I feel like I should mention quickly that although Chronix have lent me these watches and they sell these watches, they have no input on what I say. I can be positive, I can be negative. They don't get to check. I literally just say, can I borrow these watches? And I can kind of prove that by the video that I did on Hublot. So all the opinions, all of the thoughts in this video, they are just my personal thoughts. No one else's. Now that I've got into the idea of I like two-tone, I want two-tone, I've started to notice two-tone sports watches everywhere. Instagram just now feeds me images of two-tone sports watches. So it's hard to understand whether the community is going towards two-tone or gold watches more now, whether I'm just noticing them more because they're on my radar, or whether Instagram is just feeding me more images of these watches. Am I building my own echo chamber in my head of this is what I like, therefore everything around me is feeding me more of this stuff? Or are two-tone sports watches becoming more popular? There is an argument to say that the steel versions of these watches are technically superior to the gold ones. Because these are sports watches, steel is more hard-wearing, far more hard-wearing than gold, therefore the steel is technically superior. But very few people wear these watches for their intended purpose. And so maybe we should just have fun with these watches. A bit like when you see a Land Rover Defender in the city on low profile road tires. Half of me cringes and thinks they've ruined a beautiful beast that should be in the mountains, but it's not. It's in the city on a road, so it should have road tires. And the owner's probably having a lot of fun with that machine. Just like with these two-tone watches. It doesn't make any logical sense, but it is more fun. It's more rebellious. It feels dirtier. And in some cases, there's a bit of an inside joke. It shouldn't be in gold, but it is. Owning a steel sports watch from Rolex is a big flex because they are so incredibly, they're not particularly expensive. They're a lot of money. 6 grand is a huge amount of money, but within the whole market that is the watch world, there are Omega Seamasters that are more expensive than the Rolex Submariner. So they are still mid-tier watches. The flex is being able to get hold of the watches. That's a flex. But my eyes most definitely on the two-tone. I just think they're sexy. I'd love to get some shots of a two-tone Submariner that's all scratched up, that's been worn and enjoyed up a mountain or something. I feel like that would be the ultimate rebellious wrist shot, would be the sports watch which has been made glamorous, made a little bit more fashionable, but is then being pushed back into its sports realm. I think that's pretty cool. What do you think? Have I just created a little echo chamber of myself on social media where it's just feeding me images of what I want to see? Or are two-tone watches having a comeback? If you like this video, hit the thumbs up button. If you like the style of this video, hit the subscribe button down there and that little bell icon so you get notifications when I drop a new video. If you're in the market for a new watch, jump over to Chronext and check out what they have over there. If you spend over £5,000 or $5,000, use discount code BARK and JACK, all as one word, when you check out, and you'll save yourself some cash. If you're on Instagram, give me a follow at BARK and JACK. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care.